Hi, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox, and I'm here on the Paper Tray Ink and Ink to Paper YouTube channel, and I'm sharing this trick or treat Halloween card that I'm making out of the Scaredy Cat, which is a new stamp set. It has these really cute Halloween kitties, and the pumpkin with the kitty poking out, and some little Halloween candies and sentiments, and then of course it has a matching die set. And I'm also going to be using Hay Bales, which is new, and it has a small and a large one. And I'm going to be using the small one. And you'll see this in a video that'll be coming up, how I might use it in a little more unique way. But for now, we're going to use it as regular Hay Bales. And then I'm using this wonderful grateful vine. It can be a frame or it can be a background. It's really beautiful. I'm only using the vines for that now. And then I'm using Skinny V's for just a border, a frame, and then a round die that is 3¼ So I have a piece of rough watercolor paper and a piece of a panel, and A2 panel of Bristol, and some plain white cardstock, some green, some black, and then some masking paper, because I need to mask out a moon, and that's what we're going to use that round die for. But first I'm going to use some watercolor paper here. This is rough watercolor paper. I wanted to have the texture. You don't have to use watercolor paper. In fact, you could use colored paper. You could use, like a really nice medium brown and then a yellow top, and not watercolor it at all. And you can make it really simple then. Either way, whatever suits you. For me, I'm going to watercolor it. I like the variation that it gives you. And I've poked out all of those little areas that you need to for the top of this. And then right now I'm going to color the bottom, and I'm using 4 colors. I'm using Bright Buttercup, Harvest Gold, Honey Nut, and Cocoa Bean. And I've just smushed some on my glass mat there, added some water, and then I'm just doing a really quick paint job of them. Just add a little bit more ink as I need it, if I've used it all up. And I do want the background to be a little bit darker, and the top that has all of the spaces there to be a little bit lighter. But once I have that, where I'm going to just add a little bit more brown to it. But once that's all done, then I am going to have that dry, and then I'll take this glue, and I love this glue, this glue in a tube, and I'm going to just take little spots and put some glue on there and glue that down. And you see that I have made already 2 other bales before. I'm going to use 2 bales total, so I have an extra one and I can use it for another project. But for now, I'm going to take the Scaredy Cat stamp set, and I have got the pumpkin and the cat. I'm going to take true black ink and stamp the cat, because you got to have a black cat for Halloween. I mean, there's just no other color. And then I'm going to take this pumpkin, but this pumpkin has the little kitty cat poking out of it, and I don't want to use that part. So I'm going to take the sticky part of a Post-it note, and I'm just going to cut a little strip to cover him up and round the corners. And then now I can stamp terracotta tile ink all over it. And I'm going to just smudge out the center there, and you'll see why. I'm going to stamp the face. I still wanted the lines of the pumpkin, but I wanted them blurred a little bit, and that's why I smeared them out a little bit. And now I am taking the top of the pumpkin. There is a stamp for the top that's been cut out, and I'm using the terracotta tile again and a little bit of ripe avocado, and I'm going to stamp that top. And now I'm going to take the face there of the pumpkin, which is so cute, and I'm going to stamp that, and you can see right into place with Bright Buttercup. So now you can see why I didn't want the ribbing of the pumpkin to be so prominent right in the center. Now I've put some anti-static powder. I'm adding those what look like little squinky eyes with Versamark ink, and then there's a little tiny nose too. I mean, it is a tiny stamp, and stamping the nose, and now using white embossing powder. And I'm going to going to heat emboss this. So now he has his little face. So with some Copic markers, I'm going to color this pumpkin. I start out with lighter colors. So I'm using Y11, Y13, and Y15 as the lighter yellows. And then I'll go into some oranges like the YR16 that I'm using. I'm sorry, um, this is Y38. I have all the colors listed there. You can just, I just go light to dark and then I go back to the medium and light again. I love using this red, which is YR09. It really, you'll see how it really makes it come to life. Um, don't be afraid to use that dark of a color. And then I'll go in and add more yellow to it. I want to keep the face where you can really see the face look more glowy. And so I want to keep that fairly yellow and not as much orange. I'm going to use a touch of brown, which is the E23, and just accent that pretty much on the edges. And I'm just going to go back and forth with this, the yellows and the oranges, and just kind of fill out the pumpkin until it's nice and crisp. And then now I'm using, this is a distress marker, it's dried marigold. And I'm just kind of outlining just a little part of the face just so it stands out more. And then I'm using Copic markers just to make that a little bit brighter. Now I'll do the top using the same colors. Now I didn't stamp it very well on the green part, so I used a green pen and kind of filled that in. Now I'll use some Copic markers. I'll use some greens, the YG 35, 95, excuse me, and then of course the orange and yellow. With that done, I'm going to cut out the kitty cat, and I'm going to cut him out using the matching die. But for the pumpkin, because the pumpkin die has the little kitty cat that'll cut out, it's so simple. You can just cut around it. It's just cutting a kind of a roval, a half oval, half round. And you can see I made 3 pumpkins. I showed you how to do the one, but I didn't, but do 3. I didn't want to bore you with watching me do 3 of them. And then I'm now stamped with black, the true black, these little candies. And I'm going to stamp a few more of them off camera and color them. I didn't think you wanted to be bothered with that. And I'm going to color those and then cut them out with the matching dies. And then I'm also taking a green, and I changed the green to this more olivey green. I think this might be simply chartreuse, but I'll have it. You can pop over to the blog and you can see the colors that I use for sure. But I'm just using the vines for this, but you can see how pretty that is with it the way it is. So this is a wonderful die. If you want to get that one, you won't be disappointed. It's quite wonderful. And then I'm taking a little bit of pine feather and then just accenting it a little bit, blending just a little bit on there. The other 2 strips I'm going to just set aside, and we'll use those for another project. And then I'm taking some masking paper and I'm going to create a mask. So I'm going to cut out the circle. We're using the circle die. And I'm going to peel that off because this is going to be my moon. And I want to protect that area right now because I'm going to color the background. And I want to just kind of make sure I cut off camera that black out of the black cardstock, the skinny V, using the skinny V frame. So that's going to be my frame. And I'm just kind of judging if that's I've got it in the right position. And now I'm just taking this blending tool and I'm blending on some spring rain, and then I'm going to go on to the dark indigo, and I use a post-it note just to hold it down so it doesn't get my fingerprints all over it, and it really helps a great deal. You can hang on to it. The sticky part of the post-it note helps a lot too, but I'm not going to go all the way to this circle with really dark. I'm going to leave that kind of looking a little glowy, but I am going to put a lot of ink on here. Now this piece, as you may have remembered, is an A2 size, so 4¼ by 5½, and it is Bristol paper. Bristol paper is like magic when it comes to blending ink, in my opinion. And so I like to use it whenever I'm blending ink. Now you see it getting a little bit purple, and that's because I'm using Royal Velvet and adding in some purple, but mostly the really dark indigo, which is such a beautiful blue. And see, there's our moon. Isn't that beautiful? Now, you could leave it as white if you wanted to. That can be stunning as well. But I'm going to take the negative part of where I cut that out. That's why I wanted to save that. And now I'm going to try to position it in place. And it's all right if you don't get it perfect, and you'll see that I don't get it perfect and see how I overcame that. But I'm just protecting now the blue, and I want to do the moon. So I'm going to start out with Harvest Gold, and I'm just very lightly going over this, and then I'll get darker and darker. I'm using a bright Buttercup and Summer Sunrise as well. The Summer Sunrise is my darkest color, and I'm going to just use little stripes there with the Summer Sunrise. Now you see that one little edge on the right doesn't have the yellow, but I'm going to add just some of that bright Buttercup and some Summer Sunrise and just fill that in. And I don't care if I go kind of around. I want to kind of go around the moon. I did with the blending tool a little bit, so it kind of blends in with the blue. Now I'm taking this bleed proof white. This is my favorite thing to put in some stars because it's very opaque. It goes on really nicely. And now I'm using a dip pan. You don't have to do this, but I wanted to add a few little stars. It's just a little detail. But you could just stick with the splatters. But these splatters, you can see how white they turn out, and I just love that. This is a Doc Martin bleed proof white that you can go over to Foil Fox if you'd like. We have it in our store. And then I'm going to add this on to a, I think this is Winter Wisteria card base. And now we're going to, now that that's with all the background done, now it goes on the card base. And now I'm going to do the arranging. And I'm just roughly doing that and adding some little foam tape on these. But that was a little premature. I wanted to make a line, cut a line actually, so that I could kind of wedge in the top to the pumpkin. And I put the frame up there, that black frame again. Remember, I made that out of skinny V's just to get an idea where that should go. And it really makes a really great frame. It just kind of pulls it all together. But I want to get an idea where that should go, so I know where my hay bales will go. And don't they look great? And then we'll now arrange these pumpkins, these stacking pumpkins. And we can't forget our little kitty cat because he's so darn cute. And now I'm going to stamp Trick or Treat, and I'm going to stamp it with True Black ink. And I'm just going to wing it here. I'm just going to kind of line it up and see if I can get that on there right. And there we go. This kind of reminds me of a vintage card that you would see, maybe in the 50s, 40s, or 50s. And I think that's why I like it so much. Then I'm taking these little vines, just little bits and pieces of them. I cut them apart, and I just kind of weave them in there. Put little bits of glue on there, and then just kind of arrange them. I always have to fuss. If you've seen my videos before, I always have to do a little tweaking here and there just to make sure that I have it the way that I want it. Then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the the back of that black frame, a tongue twister. And then I'm going to just set that in position, and now I'm going to glue on those little candies here and there as if they fell out of the pumpkin. Because after all, it is trick or treat. Then I'm going to do one more thing. There is this wonderful inside greeting, and there's a bunch of them that are just really cute. And I'm taking an Summer Sunrise card panel. It's a little bit smaller than the A2. And I'm going to stamp a few of these little candies around, I think. And then I'll just put my double stick tape on the back of it. Now that the tape's all the way around the edges, I can just press this into the inside of the card, and now I have an inside greeting, so the card is all ready to send. So here it is with the big fat harvest moon. I just love making those moons. It's a great time of year. I hope you enjoyed this project. I think it's just so fun. And then here is the inside of the card again, just a quick glance. And then here's a few items that we use: the Scaredy Cat, the Hay Bale, the Skinny V's, the Grateful Vines, and then various ink to paper tray ink cubes. But you can pop over to blog.inktopaper.com, where there's a complete supply list, or you can go to foilfox.com and find a supply list there as well. You can get them at either place. And I hope you enjoyed this project, and we'll see you next time. Bye.